So somebody wanted to know about Foville and how that would come to neurop. Because the Foville syndrome is medial, it can affect the medial structures in the inferior pons. And so it's a medial inferior pontine syndrome. And as you remember, when you're looking at the pons, the medial structures include the eye things. So one of the structures that we're going to be worried about in the medial portion is called the medial longitudinal fasciculus. It runs from the sixth nerve nucleus, crosses immediately, and then ascends rostrally to the midbrain to the contralateral third. And so that produces an internuclear ophthalmoplegia because it's between two nuclei and causes ophthalmoplegia. And so it causes an adduction deficit. The eye can't adduct, and a horizontal abducting nystagmus dissociated from the other eye when you try and do horizontal gaze. So that thing we call a half, because it's a half of a gaze palsy. If you're involving MLF, the sixth nerve nucleus itself, because it's talking to the MLF, you get a horizontal gaze palsy if you get a sixth nerve nuclear lesion, because it's affecting both the abducens nerve and the medial longitudinal fasciculus. And so you get a horizontal gaze palsy, and that is a 1. So you can get a 1 or a 1.5 in the Foville from involvement of the MLF and the sixth nerve nucleus. Because the fascicle of the seventh nerve, genu, wraps around the sixth nerve nucleus, a lesion in this location can also cause a facial paralysis, a seventh nerve palsy. And if you're sufficiently ventral, you might knock out the fibers in the corticospinal tract, and that's going to cause a crossed sign, a contralateral hemiparesis. So when we have the Foville syndrome, a medial inferior pontine lesion, it will involve the medial structures that comes to neurop because our structures live in the pons dorsally. The medial longitudinal fasciculus produces the INO, half of a gaze palsy. The sixth nerve nuclear lesion causes a horizontal ipsilateral gaze palsy, and you can have a 1.5 syndrome because it can involve the 7, and you get an 8.5 syndrome, a 7, a horizontal gaze, and a half, 8.5. And if you extend ventral enough, you'll get a left hemiparesis and a right-sided lesion, or vice versa, because it's a crossed sign. The Foville syndrome.